If I could speak back to 10-year-old Karé who was excluded from sport, I tell her, don't believe what people are saying, defy the odds. You can do everything that you set your mind to, and have the power to actually tell people what you're capable of, and to really embrace your school experience and be a part of everything that you can be involved in. I think in terms of labels, definitely school was quite a struggle for me, being really honest. And I think I felt very limited at school. I felt like people maybe underestimated my abilities, maybe due to my disability, for example. So I remember just being in school and actually watching my friends outside engaging in sport. And that was really difficult, literally just watching them out the window, or sometimes I'd be doing, let's say, homework inside, I'd be in the library reading, or I'd be even supporting younger students in their reading. And I think what really hit home was the fact that I knew that I could be a part of it. And I think that was what was really difficult. So I remember, just being inside, watching them, or even they might be doing something indoors. And what was challenging was watching them do something that I knew I could do. And it was really difficult because I lost a lot of confidence, a lot of self-esteem during that time. And I definitely just felt different. And obviously, it's important that we celebrate our differences, but at the same time, it's important that we feel a part of that school community. And that's definitely something that I lacked. And maybe at some point, I think I just began to believe them. I began to think, okay, maybe this isn't a space for me. Maybe PE lessons, that just isn't what I do, because it's just something that I'm not supposed to be included in. So it was very difficult. I definitely didn't have a very positive outlook on my future. I didn't really think much beyond, what I was going through. I didn't believe that I was capable of doing something big. I didn't believe that I was capable of, achieving my goals, because I did feel like my disability was a hindrance, to me being able to do the things that I wanted to do. And I think what I sought was really that communication with my teachers. So in terms of limitations, it's about asking the person what can they do instead of assuming what someone can and can't do. So I think that was a key moment where I just thought, it's so important that we actually communicate well and actually work with the disabled pupil, for example, to work out what they can do and to be able to include them in what's going on. I think so many children are missing out on the amazing things that sport can bring to someone's life. The way that sport has boosted my confidence, my body confidence, for example. I was never very confident about the way I looked, and now I've learned to embrace, the strength of my arms, especially being a wheelchair user. And also the importance that sport has for our health even, and just how being active can be something that we can really enjoy, and it can just make us feel good. And it's even beyond being a Paralympian, it's beyond the medals, but in fact sport is so important, and sport is a really amazing gift that we have, and I think it's for all people, and it's something that no one should ever be stopped from being a part of. I needed a challenge of mindset, and I think for me it was seeing what was possible. It was looking to the heroes and the role models of the Paralympic Games in 2012 that really shifted my mindset to be able to realise that sport is for all people. For me, at least in my journey, I had to see someone, and that really encouraged me just to see a Paralympic role model, and not even just in terms of wanting to become a Paralympian or wanting to do elite sport, but simply just to see someone doing something incredible and just looking at myself and thinking, okay, I can also achieve my goals. I've seen someone go and achieve their goals. So it is really important, and I think it can be extremely encouraging, especially when you're navigating different intersectionalities, including race, disability, gender. I think it can just be really encouraging to see someone that you can look up to. Yeah, sadly, I don't think I really had any disabled role models prior to the 2012 Games, which is really sad, but it's because there wasn't that publicity, there wasn't that representation on the television, for example. There wasn't really anyone that I could look at and say, oh, I relate to her or I relate to him because of disability, maybe because of ethnic, background as well. And that was really difficult, and it is a shame. And I think in hindsight, at the time, I probably didn't think much of it. But now that I look back, I think it's really a shame that I didn't have, disabled role models growing up. I think it's affected me in terms of just feeling like just underrepresented really in different spaces. So as I said, like in terms of TV, for example, but in terms of sport. And I think that's difficult because I just feel like there's so many, for example, disabled Black children out there who don't see people like them and don't have those role models. And I think that's why I want to be that role model for other people. But I want them to feel like they can do anything, and I don't want them to feel even I don't want them to even struggle within their own community. I don't want, them to feel any different to anybody else in their community. I think in terms of community as well, I think sometimes disability can be something that sadly some, Black or ethnic minority communities can feel a bit taboo about still, and be afraid to really embrace it and even celebrate disability. And I think that as well can be quite a difficult thing. But also if there's families, let's say, where there's maybe several siblings, it's also even been able to support, let's say if you've got maybe like one disabled child, having that support of that child to go and achieve their goals and their dreams. And that can be difficult as well when you're trying to, also help your other siblings to achieve their goals and their dreams. And yeah, that can also be a challenge. I just don't think disability is necessarily celebrated in the same way in the Black community. I feel like it's almost hidden sometimes, and it's something that people almost pity a bit or want to kind of change. There's not necessarily that sense of accepting and celebrating and just trying to think like, how can we make the most of the situation? Like, how can we how can we get excited, and how can we support someone, to just live a normal life? I think attitudes around disability still needs to change, and I feel like even in the Black community, I can say there's still a lot that needs to be done. So I think a lot needs to happen within communities, and that's really important. But also as well, just showcasing, Black disabled people who are doing great things, just showcasing them, getting them out there more. And I think that also will challenge attitudes. When you see, let's say, just Black disabled people just living normal lives and just achieving their dreams and being successful in business, being successful in academia, being successful in sport, I think it just challenges those mindsets, and it means that disability can be something that's celebrated rather than being hidden.
When racism happens, it's normally just unnecessary. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a genuine reason for like someone to. Like if you and someone had a disagreement, then it's a little bit different. But I feel like racism normally comes from like random people who don't know you. Like they're just agitated at the colour of your skin. Like it's not even at you, it's just the colour of your skin.
So I started that Instagram live series just because at the time, obviously, it was lockdown and Black Lives Matter protests were happening. But I really thought that disability was out of the conversation, which I found quite confusing because I knew that disability is part of this. And when we're talking about Black lives, we also need to recognise Black disabled lives. That's definitely something that really inspired me to talk about disability and race. And then in terms of what I learned, it was just really interesting to hear people's, experiences of racism and ableism where maybe I couldn't quite understand or comprehend from my own experience. It was interesting to hear about how people have experienced racism and ableism, or even both at the same time. But even also thinking about the gendered aspects of it. So I spoke to a Black disabled male athlete, and he was talking about his experience and even the way that his disability and race kind of came together in terms of his experiences with the police even. So I thought it was just a really great time in terms of just being able to understand, what some of the issues are that Black disabled people face. I think sometimes there can be a bit of a fear in talking about social injustices, but at the same time it's so important that we have these conversations, and sometimes you just need someone to say something that might be a bit uncomfortable to hear, but that's actually important to hear. And especially when you're a person that's a part of a certain community, I think there's an opportunity and a voice that you have, especially if you've got a platform to actually speak about things and for people to listen. Yeah, I think in terms of ableism and racism, my experiences were quite difficult to really process because I understood what racism was, But when I was, let's say, maybe treated differently at school, or when I had struggles, for example, with friendships, I'd never know, is that because I'm disabled? So I've always found it quite difficult to differentiate between the ableism and the racism. And that's definitely a struggle that I'm sure, other people face. And it is quite difficult to almost like separate, the different kind of aspects of your identity and to be able to understand your experience through those different lenses. I want those who, have listened to my story to recognise the importance of celebrating who you are, in every aspect of your identity, and just knowing the power of being confident in who you are as well, and really believing in yourself and not allowing any external voice to limit your potential.